throws, swings.
There it is, there it is, get out, get out, all right.
Hit number 4192.
Swing on and miss. And Tom Browning has pitched a perfect game.
And a high fly ball, center field. He hit it a ton. It's gone. And the 2010 Central Division Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds. And Homer Bailey has pitched a no-hitter.
You're listening to the Redlegs Radio Report with Jason and Todd on Bowling Green's home of the Reds, ESPN Radio.
Good Saturday morning to you, Reds fans. It is the Redlegs Radio Report. Jason Harbison, good buddy Todd Smith. We got a special guest in the studio with us today. You know him, you love him, you've heard him on the Sports Web. And we've been meaning to get this guy on the show for many years. We've been on the show with Brian on his normal Tuesday time. This guy's a regular there, and he is, I tweeted out he is an MLB guru, if you will. Danny Hartung the Limb. How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, brothers?
Hey.
You doing all right?
Yeah, doing well. And, of course, Todd, he's got a voice for radio.
He does.
He definitely has a voice.
Don't have the face, though.
None of us do.
Yeah, none of us really have the, well, we have faces for radio, I would argue with that. So, but as if the news of Danny coming on isn't big enough, we also have Reds broadcaster, the newest Red broadcaster, Tommy Thrall, coming on a little bit later on the show. So, guys, the Reds took 2 of 3 from the Cubs this week and 2 of 4 from the Pirates. It was a tumultuous time with the Pirates. We'll get into that in a couple minutes here. But last night put a sound whooping. Is that a phrase that you would use down here, Todd? Whooping? Is that?
Yeah, it was a whooping.
Okay, it was a whooping on the Nationals 9-3. So have they turned the offense around? That's the big question, I guess, for both of you guys. That as the Reds sputtered so long, that they are starting to kind of be on the upswing with that.
Yeah, well, it only took a quarter of the season. But,
Yeah, you give them 50 games, and you got to spot them in the first 50. But they're starting to hit the ball pretty good. But I actually think their pitching is going to stand up to, especially against Washington. That place is a hot mess over there now. So
it really is, yeah. And if it wasn't very evident about that in the first inning of last night's game, where the Reds batted around, and I was actually away from the TV at the time, and you guys were texting me, and it's like, oh my gosh, they're killing it right now.
Yeah, they were lucky to get to Corbin like that. His ERA is under 3, so
yeah,
it's just one of those games that every starter has every now and then.
Mm-hmm. Dan, you mentioned the pitching of the Reds. Has it surprised you any with the way that they? I know it surprised me. We've said on the show many times how a lot of the guys, we were even saying before the season started, we're like, oh, these guys that they picked up, I mean, they're probably 3 or 4 starters for any other team, but here they are, they're eating innings and they're just kind of getting it done.
they are. They're putting it together, and they're getting on the average about 6.5 innings out of each one of these starters, which is fabulous. I mean, I think Cincinnati could use a little bit of a setup guy.
Yeah.
For Iglesias, but Tanner Roark's throwing tonight. He's been pitching pretty good. He's about 3.33 as far as his ERA, and Sonny Gray's been pitching pretty good. Man, what a slider that guy has!
Oh, I'm telling you,
mercy.
Yeah,
it's incredible. That thing breaks a foot horizontally. It's amazing.
And really, he wasn't even, I don't want to disparage what he was doing last year with the Yankees, but that was one concern that I know you and I had, Todd, that it's like, he just kind of washed up. He was on the scrap heap for the Yankees, and, he comes over, and, he's been doing so great for him.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I think a lot of that had to do with coaching, too. Mm-hmm. The Yankees pitching coaches wanted him to do a certain thing certain ways, and that's not the way Sonny Gray throws the ball. I mean, set him loose and let him free, and he'll throw the ball and not have a problem with it. He did it at Vanderbilt for years down there, and just wonderful to watch. It was very enjoyable.
Reds are second best pitching staff right now with 372. It's ballooned a little. I shouldn't say balloon. That's probably the wrong term, but it's gone up a little bit to where it was, which a couple weeks ago was the best. They were kind of teetering back and forth with the Rays of having the best ERA in all of Major League Baseball, but still getting it done. And I think the innings eaters are where really it's at. That we mentioned Arroyo off air about how he used to be one of those guys that would go out there and eat innings, and that's really what the Reds need.
Yeah, it's been really surprising. I believed in Castillo, but I did not believe he would be as good as he is.
Yeah.
Starting with him, everybody else has been solid enough to compete. Obviously, they're within 5 games of first place, and it'll be interesting to see what they do down the stretch.
Yeah.
Because there's some places they need help. As Danny mentioned, the setup guy. A couple of problems in the bullpen, but nothing major.
Mm-hmm. And really, like you said, Todd, that they are 5 games out in the Central. And Danny, we were talking about that off air about how it's just up for grabs right now. Probably the best division in all of baseball.
I think it's the most fun to watch between Milwaukee, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. And they're just going to beat each other to death, you know, and just split here and split here. And I wouldn't be surprised if the wild card comes out of the NL Central this year. It really would, between Chicago and between Chicago and Milwaukee. And you never know. You just never know who's going to climb up there. But they're just, like I said, let them beat each other to death, and it's more fun to watch that way.
Oh, yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, and really, with like you said, Ty, with the Reds being 5 games out, they're right behind St. Louis, who's right at 500, and Pittsburgh, another team, although, they've been knocked around a little bit with their starting pitching, and really on the injured list as well. There is a team that's just been hanging in there because a lot of people just figured they'd kind of fall off a little bit with their injuries, but it's up for grabs. Like you said, Chicago, Milwaukee, Chicago had that really rough start.
I don't see it changing.
You don't?
No. I mean, of course it depends on, someone decides to dump everybody at the deadline, but if that doesn't happen, I see this division being competitive all the way to the end.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. I mean, there's other divisions out there, too. I mean, if you look at the AL Central, we talked off air again. We probably had a better show off air before we went on about all the stuff that's going on with, Minnesota running away with it. I mean, they're already 10.5 games above the Chi Sox right now.
Yeah, that's
it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
That's kind of a whitewash. They're you're talking about the crazy thing is Cleveland's playing so bad baseball. I mean, but their pitching's hurt. Kluber's down, Clevenger's down, but that's 2 big pieces out of their pitching puzzle there. But Minnesota could absolutely run away with this thing, and you can call it. Clinched by July 4th.
Right before the All-Star break, the earliest clinch.
You guys are 45 games ahead. So.
Just take the rest of the season off and bring your AAA team up and maybe get them some at-bats.
Then they would lose to the wild card team.
Exactly. In one game.
That'd be exactly what happens too, Todd. You're right. Danny, you mentioned too, just watch them battle it out. It's been an interesting week for Derek Dietrich especially. Continues to kill it, hitting .262, including 3 home runs in a game Tuesday, yet still isn't considered an everyday player for the Reds. He actually said out last night he has trouble with the left-handed starters. They'll keep him out of the lineup with that, but the guy's got 17 home runs. He's already bested his entire season last year for home runs, 36 RBIs and 57 hits.
Thing about Mr. Dietrich is, he's posing and he's doing all this stuff, and he's angering a lot of pitchers.
Yeah.
But, so what?
Yeah.
Who cares? The John Wayner did not, the Pittsburgh Pirates broadcaster did not like anything he does. In fact, he couldn't stand him, is what he said. But, so what? The guy's having fun. He was stymied when he was in Florida. Florida got rid of him, and so he came up here and fresh start. He's going to do whatever the heck he wants. If it doesn't bother his teammates, I say do whatever the heck you want, but be expected to be having one put in your ear after a while, because it's going to happen again, especially between Pittsburgh there.
Yeah, we looked at the schedule, and I guess at the end of July is when they play Pittsburgh again. I wonder if the ticket sales are already going up.
Well, they hit Geno.
Yeah.
So they've got something coming.
Yeah.
So look out for that one.
Well, and that's that. We could probably go on and on about like the unwritten rules of baseball, but Danny, you mentioned the Pirates broadcaster John Wayner. And he went as far as to say that his grandfather, meaning Dietrich's grandfather that played for Major League Baseball for years, would be rolling over in his grave by the way that Dietrich is playing. Todd, you mentioned that Suarez got plunked too. David Bell was ejected, and here's something else that's controversial. He was saying in the postgame after all of that happened, he said that he feels like the umps aren't going to do anything to stop this, and therefore that he states that his players have to take it into their own hands by all means necessary. Your guys' thoughts on that? Is that just old school baseball, or it's to be expected, like you said, Danny, when you're up there
I'm fine
pimping
with it. You know what? They tried to hit Dietrich in the rear end on the first one in Pittsburgh, I believe. I'm fine with it. Just don't throw it at his head.
Right.
Or throw it at his hands or, but I understand, if he grandstands, then...
Put one in his hind end
he knows what's coming.
But the thing is, Chris Archer's not. He can't pinpoint one and hit him. Hit the guy in the back, so it went behind him, and all the way to the backstop, and they scored a run on that. So that's just crazy. But he's going to expect one, and if one of the Cincinnati pitchers dots old Mr. Josh Bell. It'll be on. Mm-hmm. That'll be a bench clearer right there. Yeah. And I expect it to happen.
Well, honestly, it should have been a bench clearer when they hit
Suarez. Yeah, and it's what ended up getting David Bell ejected over arguing that. It was funny. Somebody tweeted out that David Bell has had more ejections than Brian Price had wins last year. Yeah, I believe Bell's at 4, and when they got rid of. Price last year, he only had 3 wins, so there you go. That was a good tweet. But yeah, I mean, back to Bell, him saying that, just like, well, obviously the umps don't have our backs on this, and a lot of things came out, especially with Suarez. You're messing with a guy's livelihood. Yeah. As great as Suarez is doing, like you said, Todd, you hit him in the hands like that, he could have been out. Like last year with Votto when he got hit by Ryan Madsen, he was out in the knee. He was out for the better part of a week, if not more than that. That's messing with the flow of the game. When the Reds are on the upswing right now, as we talked with their offense, you go hitting Suarez in the hands, taking him out of the lineup for the week or better. I mean, that can really screw a team up big time.
Didn't that happen last year?
Yeah.
They broke his thumb last year.
And he was out, was it 2 weeks? Or
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, exactly. You hit a guy in the hand, you can get multiple fractures there. And, if a guy can't swing a bat, he's not much to help to the team sitting in the IL. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I would watch out.
Yeah.
Josh Bell, watch out.
Yeah, we should take that trip up there and watch that one.
That'd be really good. Yeah.
Just jump out of the stands and everyone go.
Well, maybe there'll be some new shirts made because there was like a local T-shirt company when Puig tried to take on all of the Pirates when there was that bench clearing, I guess melee. It wasn't even a brawl, but they made it into like some kind of modern art masterpiece. I guess it was like more of a Renaissance painting, and they're selling out of these shirts up in Cincinnati because it's basically Puig, just kind of got his arm cocked back like this, ready to take on the whole, starting lineup of the Pittsburgh
going
Pirates.
Into a pillow fight with Yasiel Puig. But,
yeah, pretty much taking on the entire team. We mentioned, of course, that the Reds are 27-30 in last place, but 5 games out. Central opponents down the stretch. It's going to be really interesting. The teams to watch. We talked about that. Pittsburgh, are they going to be able to kind of get all those guys off the IL? But so interested in that, and especially with the potential melee that's going to happen with.
We're firing this thing up so it actually will happen.
Yeah, and it goes back to the unwritten rules of baseball that we talked about. I don't know that I don't want to get into this whole like younger generation kind of talk or anything, but I understand it. The Twitter was on fire with people talking about it's like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. This isn't hockey, and even hockey to the most part right now isn't as rough and tumble as
people are like, it's assault with a deadly weapon.
No, but they still police their own. That's what baseball always has been. You kind of. You hit my guy, we're going to hit you. But, David Bell is probably going to get a talking to from Joe Torre about his comments on, about, we'll take care of this. And, we're not going to get any help from the umpires. So we'll let this work its way out the way we do it. So.
Yeah, and I don't know how well that resonates with like younger fans or anything. When we I think of my daughter who's turning 13 this week. Who is just so far removed sometimes from baseball when I got the game on all the time. And how does that resonate with them, with the younger fans and stuff? And you hear that on Twitter. It's like, oh man, somebody's gonna get hurt out there. We're teaching our kids, and it's like, well. I see both sides of it, but I really don't know.
Well, there's conflict in every sport, and it's been this way for a long time, and it's always worked.
Whether it's the NBA and you're elbowing a guy going up for a rebound or something like that, so it's really everywhere. It's just coming more to the forefront now because we're seeing it this early in the season, I think. So yeah,
got to get the season started sometimes.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's but like you said, we were all brought up playing baseball, Little League, from Little League on up. And, we didn't, when you're little, you don't dot somebody because they dotted one of your guys. But, as you got older and more competitive but the high school, college level, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
We're not actually teaching our kids that this is going to happen. We're just letting them know it's going to happen.
Right. It's kind of the unexpected.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? David Ortiz, for years, everything he hit, he would stand there and admire.
Yeah.
And no one had a problem with that. And guys watch that stuff. Dietrich's young enough; he probably
remembers those days.
Yeah, I mean, so it's if you're going to let one guy get away with it,
That's true.
Stop complaining about another guy doing it.
I'm sure you're going to start seeing these kids that are 10 to 12 hitting home runs to start doing these bat flips, because I saw it on a women's softball game the night. This gal from Oklahoma State just murders the ball, and she did this spike bat flip. It was pretty incredible. It was pretty cool, but it gets to be that fad thing. But we got to get kids playing baseball again.
Oh yeah,
and it's getting to be like the number 3 sport behind football and soccer anymore.
Yeah.
But kids aren't playing enough baseball, and I'd love to see that get formation to where these kids are getting more interested and get them out of the house and play some baseball. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
I agree. Yeah, we've talked many times ad nauseum on this show about that, and how there's just there's almost a disconnect with this younger generation. And I think, you can blame it on many factors. Like you said, if everybody's inside playing it on the Xbox, why would you want to go outside and do it?
And sweat.
Exactly. Well, we're going to take a little break here on the Redlegs Radio Report. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk to our newest broadcaster with the Cincinnati Reds, Tommy Thrall. Stay tuned right here to the Redlegs Radio Report, ESPN 102.7 and ESPN Radio 1027.com.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can't wait to catch a bunch of these here fish this afternoon. And I'm pretty sure I won't be getting a call from the lady talking about the air conditioner because I done got her took care of.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, turn to the experts like I always do this time of year.
Right. Who's that?
Well, that'd be Bowling Green Refrigeration, Heating, and Cooling. Yeah. Your comfort is their concern, is what they say. Oh, here comes one, boys.
Hold on, let me grab the net.
Earl, is that your phone ringing?
Yeah, it is. Here, take this net. What?
Earl, I need you to get home right now. I am burning up. This air conditioner's out. Get off that boat right now.
All right. Hey, sorry about that, man. The lady is hot. The air conditioner isn't working.
Well, if you don't mind me asking, what's your unit? Is it a carrier?
No, it's not a carrier. It's one of them others.
Doesn't matter if it's a carrier or not. Bowling Green Refrigeration, Heating, and Cooling can service it for you. No, looks like I got me another on the line here now. Between holding this net for my fish and the people calling you about the air conditioner, you ain't even got the case.
Pickled okra. Schedule a pre-summer checkup on your HVAC unit today with Bowling Green Refrigeration, Heating, and Cooling.
This is a Morgan & Morgan consumer message.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. One of the first things clients ask me is, what is my case worth? It depends on the injury, liability, and damages. And in most cases, it depends on the lawyer you hire. All lawyers are not the same. I would like to invite you to visit forthepeople.com to see what your case might be worth. You will see injuries like yours, offers made by the insurance company, and verdicts made by juries. We try more cases than any firm in America every year. Insurance companies know which law firms try cases and which firms settle cheap. Your case value is different in the hands of different lawyers. There was only one Babe Ruth, and then hundreds and hundreds of minor league players. I've been around now a long time, fought countless battles. We are fighters who take on giants. In some cases, you hired your lawyer without doing your research, and you can just as quickly fire them if you now think you made a mistake. You only get one swing at the plate. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com. Offices, Bowling Green.
The federal government provides $150 billion a year to make higher education possible for anyone. Completing the free application for federal student aid, known as the FAFSA, is the first step to getting your share. But an estimated $40 million in financial aid is left on the table each year by Kentucky students. Don't let that happen to you.
Fill out the new and improved FAFSA today. Visit knowhowtogoky.org and join the conversation on Twitter, #KnowHowToPayKY. This message is brought to you by the Pritchard Committee Student Voice Team and the Council on Post-Secondary Education.
If your walls could talk, what would they say? I have sent children into fits of rage.
I am responsible for a child's speech impediment.
I am the reason a child can't read. Just because you can't see lead paint doesn't mean it's not on walls, doors, windows, and sills. Today, lead paint poisoning affects over 1 million children. If your home was built before 1978, log on to leadfreekids.org or call 800-424-LEAD.
Brought to you by the Coalition to End Childhood Lead Poisoning, EPA, HUD, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Redlegs Radio Report here in beautiful Bowling Green, Kentucky. Jason Harbison, Todd Smith, our good buddy from the Sports Web, Danny Hartung, the Limb, sitting in with us today. Had a great first segment there. Todd, we could. I'm almost sorry we had to go to commercial because, again, like what we were saying off air, Danny and Todd, was sometimes it's better than what's going out over the air.
Often.
Yeah. Or what we're texting back and forth during a game sometimes. It's like, man, hey, can we save this for the show, guys? This is a lot better.
Wait a minute, we can't put that on air.
Yeah, true. A lot of that stuff can't go out over the air. But our guest today is in his first full season broadcasting for the Reds on radio, and you may remember him if you've ever listened online with the 7 years he spent broadcasting radio and TV games for the then AA Pensacola Blue Wahoos, which was the former AA affiliate for the Reds. And I was fortunate enough to meet him a few months ago. Please welcome to the show, Tommy Thrall. Tommy, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes, and by the way, if you couldn't tell in his intro there, Tommy, or if you haven't listened to Tommy, and really you should on the radio, he's got one of the smoothest deliveries voices out there in all of baseball.
Well, that's very kind. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, so Tommy, let's just get right to it. What do you make of the offense, kind of turning it around here recently after their, kind of really slow start? And really almost the surprising pitching that I know the three of us here in studio were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think the thing that I think is perhaps the most surprising, at least to me, and, again, it's my first year being around the team on a daily basis, but to me, I never dreamed that this team would struggle to hit the way they did out of the gate. I think the biggest question mark coming in was the pitching, but I was pretty confident with the guys that they put together, the guys they brought in, and the rotation that was put together, that the pitching would be significantly better this year. I don't think you can ever expect a guy in his rookie season to be what he's going to be as a major league pitcher. So Castillo struggled a little bit last year. Tyler Mahle struggled a little bit last year. And as long as they continued to make progress, I felt like they were going to help the rotation. I was surprised as anybody when Luis Castillo was named the opening day starter. But it shows you that this coaching staff and this organization has a pretty good feel for what they've got. When they made him the opening day starter, he went out and dominated, and he has just continued to do that except for his last couple of starts. I mean, he is really turning into something special. Now, you'd like to see him be a little more consistent. You hope he's going to turn things back around like he was early in the season. There's just a little lull that he's hit. His last two starts is nothing, to be concerned about at this point. But, he has been spectacular overall. Tanner Roark's been a nice addition to the rotation. And then Sonny Gray's been really good, too. I think they've been cautious, and I don't know necessarily an explanation for it, but it feels like they've been pretty cautious with Sonny Gray. He hasn't gone real deep into a lot of games, but he's looked good. I mean, he's been a nice fit in the rotation, and Tanner Roark has been really a workhorse, and Tyler Mahle seems to be improving. So those guys have really kind of helped solidify the rotation. The bullpen, first few games of the season, they struggled a little bit, but it seems like guys are starting to really define their roles out there, and everything's coming together in the bullpen. And remember, that was a pretty strong piece to this pitching staff last year. So that's been good to see. And now that the bats are joining them, it's really special what this team, I think, is capable of. Just because when you get the kind of pitching that they've had, you don't necessarily have to lead the league in offense to win baseball games. And they are as hot as anybody right now. I think I looked yesterday, and over the last 5 to 10 games, there were only a couple of teams that were hitting better than the Reds. So they're hitting over 300 as a team in their last 10 games. They are just on fire right now. And it's hard to point a finger necessarily on where it all started, but it seems like when you go back and look at when Nick Senzel was promoted, and I'm not trying to say it's all him, it just seems like that's where it all kind of started to turn. And I wonder how much that has to do with just having a guy that solidifies the top spot in the order. I mean, he's been a true leadoff guy for this team. He strikes out a little bit, but he's also a rookie, so you figure that's probably going to go away because strikeouts have never been a part of his game. But he's a guy that can get on base. He's a good hitter at the top of the order, and then he lets everybody else just kind of fall into place. So Joey Votto's really heated up. I mean, he has been on fire. I think Votto's been on base. I think his on-base streak's up to, I was reading about it yesterday, 16, 17 games now for him. He's got an overall hit streak that's up to 7, so he has really, really come on lately. And that's tremendous to see. Jesse Winker really went through a lull. He started the season hitting pretty well and then kind of fell off a little bit, and it looked like he started to get kind of pull happy, and now we're starting to see him go the other way again. And when he's doing that, that's a sign that he's really in a good place offensively. So the bats are starting to come together. They're catching up to the pitching, and now it's just hope that this team can rattle off some wins.
Tommy, this is Todd. What are your thoughts on guys like Puig and especially Derek Dietrich, who are bringing big and fun energy to the clubhouse?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because I think the key word you said right there is fun energy. And the game of baseball is meant to be fun. I think, and I'm guilty of falling into the trap sometimes too. Sometimes I get a little stuffy with the way that this game is quote-unquote supposed to be played. I like watching guys that are having a good time, and it's something that I talk about when it comes to broadcasting with young broadcasters. I tell them all the time, I said, if you sound like you're having fun on the air, the listener will have fun listening to you. I think the same holds true with players. If they look like they're having fun, they're going to be fun to watch. And I don't know that necessarily, I think in the past it's guys looking like they're having fun on the field sometimes translates to being disrespectful, and I don't know that that's necessarily fair. The game of baseball is a fun game to play. It's a hard game to play. And I think when you excel, it's okay to have a good time. And when you talk about guys having fun, those two guys are constantly having a blast. Look at Puig's numbers. They're not great, but the fans cheer him every night because he's such a fun guy to go out and watch. He's an exciting player. And I've read some comments online about reactions that the fans have to this team, and it seems like overall the fans are having a lot of fun watching this team play. And I think that says a lot for a group that's not at 500 yet. I think they will be, and I think they'll hopefully get over 500, but they're not there yet, and people still really enjoy watching this team. That's because of guys like that. I mean, Derek Dietrich, what he did last week, how do you not have fun doing that?
Tommy, this is Danny Hartung. I was wondering, you guys, the draft is Monday, and I think you have the 7th or 8th pick. Do you guys have your eye on anybody in particular, or is it going to be best player available, or?
I've heard some discussions about it. I actually haven't locked in too much on the draft. I know that it sounds like the Reds are going to be looking more at some college guys rather than necessarily a high school pick. Haven't heard a ton on who they're looking at. It sounds like, based on what I've heard, the mock drafts kind of have a guy that's slotted to go 7th overall that would fall to the Reds. I haven't got into that a whole lot yet. It seems like there's always mock drafts, and it seems like they're in every sport. But until you actually get to it, they don't ever seem to fall into place like everybody expects, except maybe the first or two guys off the board. So we'll see. I think college arms are going to be a focus for the Reds, but we'll have to wait and see where they're at. And, this is a team that I think it feels like they're pretty close to being able, to win and compete for playoff spots. So if that's the case, the college players are going to be ready a little quicker. So I think that's where the focus turns on those guys.
Tommy, this is Danny again. Do you guys think you'll make any moves before the trade deadline?
That's a good question. It's going to be interesting to see where this team is, and I think June's going to be a big month to really help determine that, because you've got some guys that are on one-year deals now. Puig is on a one-year deal, but you look at the numbers he's produced, and though he's fun to watch, I don't know what necessarily he would generate in return. So that's something that you have to keep an eye on. I know when he was brought in, that was a lot of the discussion was, would he be with this team when the season ended, or would he be a trade piece? Matt Kemp was a guy that I think the hope would have been that maybe he could get some playing time and then maybe steal him and get some return on him, and that just didn't work out with the injury, and then there just wasn't a spot for him in the end. So Puig would be one of those guys, Tanner Roark perhaps, but if this team's in the mix, they may try to hang on to him till the end. So that's why I think June's going to be a big month. And you look at the standings right now, it's not like the Reds are way out of it. They're under 500, and I think right now the focus is to get back to 500. But when you're only 5 games out, things can change in a hurry. So I think it's going to depend on what happens in the month of June, and then July they'll start to figure out what pieces they're willing to part with and what holes they need to fill and go out and get some prospects. Right now they've got some guys in the minor league system that I think are getting pretty close. They've got some guys that have some talent and I think figure to be part of the future of this team.
Absolutely. We're talking with Tommy Thrall, of course, the Reds broadcaster. Tommy, this is Jason again. What are your thoughts, of course, this week? You talked a little bit about Derek Dietrich, and David Bell, of course, made some comments after Suarez was hitting the hands, and, Derek kind of pimping those home runs and the unwritten rules of baseball. And I'm paraphrasing here, but David Bell basically said that, we need to kind of take matters into our own hands. What are your thoughts on kind of the give and take with that?
Well, the thing that I like about David Bell, there's a lot of things I like about David Bell, but one thing is there's no doubt after comments like that he has his team's back. And I think when you talk to former players, one of the biggest things they want, players want, and I think when you talk to anybody, any players, the things that they say that they like in a manager is knowing that he's got their back. And there is no doubt that David Bell is there for his team. And so I think that what he said goes a long way in that. I think he gets some respect in the clubhouse. He seems like a guy that has a lot of respect for his team, too. I mean, you look at the way they play hard all the way to the end, night in and night out. I mean, this is a team that that answers the bell every night. And I just realized the pun there, but you know what I mean. So, so I think they're a team that really respects their manager, and comments like that go a long ways from that standpoint. As far as the game and where it's at, I look at myself and I'm kind of in a tough spot. I guess I'm in a sort of identity crisis on where I stand on the game, because part of me is a traditionalist, and I'm like, yeah, let the guys police themselves, and another part of me understands that, the game is changing, and if the motto, and we keep coming back to this, and I see it everywhere, this year's slogan across Major League Baseball is "Let the kids play," and I think there's a lot that goes into that too. And I really think and believe heavily that it is okay to let the guys just go out and play and have fun and do all that without worrying about ramifications and getting drilled with a pitch. So I think the way the game is now, you've got pitchers that celebrate strikeouts. Why not let a hitter celebrate hitting a ball 450 feet? I mean, that's a pretty tough thing to do. And I think it just, it exudes a guy having fun playing a child's game. And I think that's okay. I don't know why there needs to be such an issue with that. I don't know why people need to get upset, and, just enjoy going out, having fun. And, so I don't necessarily have I don't have a problem with what Derek Dietrich's been doing. And I think David Bell's comments were right on par.
Tommy, this is Todd again. With recent injury at the ballpark, what are your thoughts on the netting at the stadiums?
Yeah, I'd like to see something done about that. You cringe every time a ball goes whistling into the stands. I mean, it's just terrifying. You can't expect fans to be on their toes for an entire game and be alert like a player. And on top of that, even if you are paying attention, I mean, the guys that are out on the field are getting paid a lot of money to be able to catch balls that are hit really hard, and they're the best at what they do. So how can you expect fans to kind of have that the same sort of ability? So I would be a proponent for extended netting. I know fans, there are some that say, well, that, kind of impedes the view or could take away from the experience. They've done it once. They've already extended the netting to the dugouts, and there didn't seem to be a lot of backlash from that. So I think you could extend it a little farther. Now, maybe the net doesn't need to be as high as it is behind home plate, and you can extend it down the lines a little bit, and maybe you can lower it some, so maybe it doesn't impede the vision of as many fans or something like that. I don't know, but something has to be done. I mean, you shouldn't have to come to a game and then worry about, serious injury from a foul ball. So I would like to see something done. I think baseball did a nice job to extend the netting once, and maybe it's time to look at going all the way down the lines.
Tommy, this is Danny Hartung. One more question. Scooter Gennett, how far is he away from getting back in?
I think he's close. Now, I don't know exactly what close means. I say he's close because he's taking batting practice again. He's fielding grounders, so he's starting to do baseball activity again. He feels great, and I think that's a good sign. Part of it is you don't want to re-aggravate that kind of injury. So, he's the type that's pretty anxious to get back in there. So you'd hate to see him try to force it. So they're going to try, I think, deliberately to go as slow as they can with that. And when you look at the way the team's playing right now, I mean, no need to really rush that. And when he does get back, I certainly think there's some question of where he fits in. Derek Dietrich, the way he's been playing, I think, has earned himself a spot to be in there day in and day out. So where do you move him? And then because you want to get Scooter in there on an everyday basis at second base, especially if he picks up where he left off last year. I mean, if he continues to do what he's done, he's a bat you have to have in a lineup. So it's going to be interesting to see what David does as far as the lineup's concerned. But I think he's pretty close to getting back. I still haven't heard a definite timeline. Once he's ready to go and ready to play, he'll go out on a rehab assignment. Of course, if you ask him how long is it going to take to get his swing back and his timing back, he'll tell you one pitch. But it'll certainly take a little bit more than that. So we'll see how it goes. But I think he's pretty close to getting back, and I wouldn't be surprised. Now I'm not giving this a timeline because I don't know, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's back before the All-Star break.
Yeah, let's hope so. We've been talking with Tommy Thrall, of course, the newest Reds broadcaster. Tommy, this is Jason again. Just one last question here for you before we let you go. Mm-hmm. We talked a little off air, and I've talked to you before up in the press box that filling Marty's shoes, and I don't want to say that you're taking over for an icon or anything, but just being around Marty all the time. And again, I realize this is your interview, but what's it like? Is it still just kind of humbling to you? I know any time that Todd and I are around him the last 10 years and just growing up as Reds fans, how it's just crazy. And has it really sunk in for you yet?
Yeah, from time to time it does. I try to stay so focused on this year and really just enjoying the ride this season. And it's my first year in the big league, so I'm trying to just soak all that in, and knowing how big of a year this is for Marty, and just kind of having a backseat to all that and observing everything that goes on with him and how he goes about his daily business and all of that. What's beyond this year, I really don't know at this point, but it is wild to be around him on a day in and day out basis. There's times where you sit back and you pinch yourself and think about yourself, 20 years ago. What would you react? How would you react about an opportunity like this? It's just it's cool to think about. Marty certainly is an icon, and it's wild. I mean, he's so much fun to be around. The energy he has. He is a tremendous person to watch go about his business, and he's a good guy too. I memean, I think that's one of the things. He's hilarious. He keeps things fun. He keeps things light, and it's been a wild ride. And I just try to enjoy every second of it, and just kind of stay in the moment. I know that maybe sounds a little cliche, but it's really, I think, the best way you can go about it at this point. And then when I get the opportunity to go on the air, you can't really think about, filling in for him or how he would do things. You just have to go out and be the best version of yourself, because anytime anybody tries to be somebody they're not, it just doesn't work, especially in baseball, because it's just too long of a season. So just try to focus on that and just do the best job that I know how to do.
I think that's an outstanding answer, and that's a very, very honest answer for that. So thanks so much, Tommy Thrall, for coming on with the Redlegs Radio Report. I guess really, before we let you go, I know I lied. One little kind of last half question. You spent some time with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans and also Quad City River Bandits. Were you ever in Bowling Green, Kentucky when you came to play the Hot Rods? Or
I actually, when I was in the Quad Cities, I did not travel, so I never made it to Bowling Green. But, yeah, I always wanted to go there because I heard great things about the city, and I've heard the ballpark's really nice.
Yeah, it is, and they've actually made some renovations to it this year, so it's really nice. If you ever get a chance, or you're coming down, going through Nashville on an off night or something like that, definitely look us up here in Bowling Green. And thanks so much, Tommy, for coming on. We look forward to seeing you throughout the rest of the season as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. It was fun.
All right, Tommy Thrall of the Cincinnati Reds broadcaster. Always a great. I love listening to him call games because he's just.
Dude, he's smooth.
He is really smooth. I mean, and for them to kind of bring him up as quickly as they have from the minor leagues, like he's a baseball player, it just shows what the Reds think about him. So, but we're going to take a break here on the Redlegs Radio Report. Coming up, we still have a lot of great baseball talk as well as Reds talk here with Danny and Todd on ESPN 102.7 FM and also 1450 AM, the Redlegs Radio Report.
This is a Morgan & Morgan consumer message.
If you've been in a car crash or suffered an injury, this could be the most important message you'll ever hear. Almost always, the person refusing to pay you is not the person who caused the injury. It's their insurance company, State Farm, Geico, Allstate, and the like. They make billions and billions of dollars by keeping as much money as they can in their own pockets. Big companies with the deepest pockets and an army of lawyers. Literally thousands. But at Morgan & Morgan, we too have an army of lawyers. And you know what else? Many of our lawyers came from the same insurance companies we now fight against. If you're injured in a car crash, slip and fall, or the victim of medical malpractice, our army will fight like hell for you. Just dial Pound Law on your cell phone. That's pound 529. Pound Law, that's all. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com. Offices, Bowling Green.
As students are nurtured, so they nurture the world. That's why Northern Kentucky University makes the humanities more human. We need a new generation with the bravery and skills to create, discover, communicate, and solve problems for the generations yet to come. NKU graduates not only influence their local communities, but inspire the world to look, think, and feel beyond. Are you ready to make your mark on the world? Find out more about the arts and humanities at NKU at nku.com/inspired. Northern Kentucky University. Burn bright.
Clean your classic car or truck. Then join Brewster's Cruisin' for a Cure. This Tuesday, cruising will take place at Brewster's, 5 to 8 p.m., 2712 Scottsville Road. Brewster's Cruisin' for a Cure. Help out the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation and Alzheimer's Foundation, along with benefiting Hospice of Southern Kentucky. Brewster's Cruisin' for a Cure. Tuesday night at Brewster's, 5 to 8 on Scottsville Road. Bring out your classic car or truck and help out this great cause with J.C. Kirby and Son.
Hey, Sean, what's up with the hole?
It's for my wife.
What?
I mean, my wife wants me to plant some trees.
You know you're breaking the law.
How's that?
You didn't contact 811 before digging because I don't see any flags marking the underground utility lines.
Isn't that costly?
It will be if you cut or hit a utility line. The service is free, Sean, so I suggest you call 811 or go online to 811now.com before you dig yourself into a hole.
This is a Morgan & Morgan consumer message.
People think that all law firms are the same, but nothing could be further from the truth. A lot of lawyers never go to court. They'll take the last best offer, even if the case may be worth 100 times that. Not us. Morgan & Morgan has 500 attorneys who aren't afraid to go to trial. We have the resources to take on the biggest bullies in America. All law firms are not the same. On your cell phone, dial pound law, pound 529. There's only one Morgan & Morgan. Offices, Bowling Green.
This is This Date in Reds Baseball, brought to you by Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network.
We've had our share of great Hall of Fame players here in Cincinnati over the years, and we've also seen the best of the other clubs as well. And one of the greatest visiting players was Sandy Koufax, the Dodgers ace of the 1960s. And on this date, June 1st, 1963, Koufax started against the Reds at Crosley Field and pitched one of his best games ever against Cincinnati, allowing just 3 hits. He struck out 10 and gave up just 1 run. But you know what? The Reds won that game. They beat the Hall of Famer on one of his best nights behind the shutout pitching of Joey J, a 4-hit shutout to beat the great Koufax. A memorable pitcher's duel this June 1st, 1963. This date in Reds baseball.
This Date in Reds Baseball with team historian Greg Rhodes is brought to you by CincinnatiUSA.com, the official travel guide of Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. CincinnatiUSA.com.
Welcome back to the Redlegs Radio Report. Jason Harbison with you here on this Saturday morning. Also sitting in, our good buddy from the Sports Web, Danny Hartung, the Limb. How'd you get that nickname? I
can give you an abbreviated story. My buddy Steve Anderson is a golf buddy of mine, and he was up in New York at a celebrity golf deal, and it happened to have Joe Pesci there on the tee box, and they said, "Hey Joe, where's your playing partner?" And he goes, "It's this guy over here. It's Tommy, the limb guy." So Steve dubbed me Danny the Limb, and it's kind of stuck with me, and I kind of like it. So it's all good, man.
Of course, if you missed any of our interview, we just had Tommy Thrall on, the newest Reds broadcaster, on the radio. You can go back and listen to that on our podcast form. That's on ESPNRadio1027.com. You can also go back and listen to all of our shows. You can also listen to Danny on the Sports Web there from all of the past shows that have been on there. And it's I'm so glad you sat in with us today, Danny.
Man, I'm having a ball. Thank you so much for having me.
We've been meaning to have you on for so long because I knew within about 5 minutes of being on Brian shows over the years, I'm like, man, this guy knows his stuff. Matter of fact, I know Todd and I studied up even more because normally we kind of keep it to Red stuff.
Oh yeah, I
and I'm like, well, he's going to be coming in here with all these stats and stuff on, maybe the Rays or Cleveland or what they're doing.
Too much credit there, brother. I do look into it a lot, but stat wise, I forget names is my problem. That kid from, but no, I really enjoy it, and I've always had a great time with Mush and all those other, and Garrett and all them too. But this is a lot of fun. I'm digging this.
Well, those guys are really, and you as well, are a Swiss Army knife, if you will. I've told Brian this on the air many times, and as well as Garrett, is they kind of have to be veterinarians of the sports world, where they have to be able to, talk about local girls softball as well as the NFL draft and the NBA and of course Western stuff that's going on there. And Garrett and Brian could rattle off these stats about the girls volleyball team. I'm not trying to downplay that at Western.
And that's when I go south, and I just sit there and go, okay, I should really pay more attention to local sports, but I'm just a kid coming up and down from Bowling Green to Nashville twice a week. So, but no, I really enjoy it with these guys, and it's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, I mean it's a great show. If you've ever tuned into that show, you know that it's one of the great Swiss Army knife sports shows, if you will. The Sports Web on Tuesday, and Garrett also helps out on that show as well as the show on Thursday that he has that is the Soki's Great Outdoors, which I've been on a couple times. You want to talk about being a fish out of water, all pun intended. I've been on that show a couple times with him too, and those guys. I mean, they
can rattle off some stuff.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
it's and that's like Brian and I and Garrett too. We go off on these different tangents, and we just never know what we're going to talk about. We just walk in, how's the golf this weekend? Oh man, Tiger's playing this guy. But no, and then we'll throw football around, and then go into soccer. They had quizzed me one day, and they asked me names of these players, and they were all soccer players, or it's either soccer or opera singer, and I couldn't tell the difference between either one of them. But it was wild, and I got like half of them right. But, it was a lot of fun.
So we talked a little bit off air again. Sometimes off air is a better show than what goes out over the air. That the attendance is down right now in all of Major League Baseball, and we could kind of talk till we're blue in the face about the younger generation not really embracing it as well as our generation did. And you talked about you got a brother down in the Tampa area and the Rays and how they're struggling. And there's even talk about Nashville getting a team as well.
Boy, that would be that. Yeah. I'd love that. But
that would be something.
Yeah, I kind of gave my brother a bad time about the attendance they're getting at the Trop down there in Tampa. But the other night they had the lowest ever attendance was like 5,200.
That's crazy.
And you get more at the Sounds game down in.
Oh yeah.
You probably get more down at the Hot Rods game. So.
Yeah.
But that's just, I mean, you can blame it on traffic, you can blame it on pricing, you can blame it on anything, but you're not going to be able to keep a team long with 5,200 people showing up. And the other night, when between Miami or the Marlins and the Rays, they had a total of 13,000 people between both of them, and that's to me is a travesty. If you support your team, I don't care what you have.
And it's really some of that, as I call it, fuzzy math, because if you were to that's probably ticket sales plus walk-up sales as well. So the season ticket people that have stopped coming since maybe the middle of May, because there's with the exception of the Rays, who are not
Rays
out
are
of it.
Good though.
Yeah, the Rays are outstanding. But I mean, if you look at Miami and how bad they've been doing. That's again, those are probably inflated numbers, because I don't know how many times. It doesn't matter what baseball stadium in America you're in, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we've got 13,000 people here." And it's like, that's funny because I only see about 1,000 on TV.
Yeah,
so
and then we're gonna start putting dummies in seats and putting a little sign in their hand. But Derek. What am I thinking?
Dietrich.
Derek Dietrich.
Yeah.
I can't get away from this guy, man. He's you know what? Guys like that bring people out to the ballpark.
They do.
And especially like this upcoming Pittsburgh series, we're not getting off this yet.
Oh, that's fine.
It's anticipation. These guys want to see something's going to happen, man. It's like a lot of these people go to NASCAR to see a wreck, you know. But I really do think this Cincinnati Reds Pittsburgh Pirates series in July is going to be a train wreck. It really is.
It's going to heat up, and especially if they get plunked by somebody else along the way, whether it's intentional or unintentional. It's just going to ramp up for this series. And what's funny is it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday game, and it's going to be like in a really hot part of the sun, end of July, really hot, sticky kind of
No
part.
one wants to play.
It's
hot.
Yeah. And it's gonna ramp up, and you got guys like, Tommy was telling us on the air that he's just a fun guy to be around. I mean, he was putting on eye black mustaches. Yeah. He's going out as pretending to be a beekeeper.
That was awesome.
They were in Oakland, and there was a bank of lights out that delayed the game, and he dressed up like an electrician or whatever. He came out with like a tool belt on.
Scuttlebutt was he turned those off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I had heard. That he took that whole bank out, and then they're trying to find a tool belt and a helmet and everything for him. But what a character! That's crazy. But
well, and I remember he was here in Bowling Green because he came up with the Ray system back in 2011, and I remember him just being. And again, it's really hard to tell if these guys are ever going to, at this level, if they're ever going to make it, to the majors. But I remember him just being one of those blue collar, gritty players. And Cincinnati, throughout their history, has always loved. You could talk about Pete Rose, Ron Oster, different guys like that are those blue collar players that the Cincinnati people just relate to.
Right.
And it's just really that town there that they can relate to that. It's almost like Pittsburgh, how they're just a steel town kind of thing, and it's just a blue collar work ethic, and that's really what Derek Dietrich is that people can relate to. And the guy's only been there a couple months, and they're, like I said, they're already making T-shirts for him too, and all these different things.
We're gonna have to cop one of those, but yeah. But it really is. It should be a really fun rest of the baseball season especially in NL Central with the way Milwaukee and Chicago and St. Louis and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are all just, like I said, playing each other and taking turns beating each other to death. And they are. I still think Milwaukee's going to come out of the Central with the Cubs right behind them, but I don't do not count any of these teams out because they all can flip the switch and win 10 in a row. So, I'd love to see Cincinnati win 3 more and get right to 500 again. So
I'd love to see it as well.
Yeah, because I still think they can win, 80 games this year. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. They're definitely going to do well. Saying they're going to do better than last year is the understatement of the century. But we touched a little bit about Nashville possibly getting a team down there this past, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, right before Memorial Day, that they had a team from, I guess, the government officials, if you will, from Nashville actually went up to New York and talked with major league officials. And there's been some talk about that, expansion. Does a team, maybe even one of those Florida teams we talked about, moves to Nashville? Would you love to see that?
Oh, I'd love to see that. That would be absolutely fabulous. I tell you what, with the turnout of the NFL draft down there did not hurt that city at all.
Right.
As far as, people standing behind, what the local people love down there. And they love their hockey team, they love their football team, and I think they'd really enjoy a baseball team as well.
Yeah, and you're right too. It's this. You mentioned the Sounds game down there. They're of course a AAA team. Got that new stadium. It's less than 5 years old. Amazing turnout for that. Even at the minor league level, I've been down there a couple times with my family, and it's always a good time. There's
beautiful stadium,
always something. Yeah, it's in a great part of. And again, it's just the resurgence of Nashville. That part of town probably you wouldn't have been caught dead in after maybe 10 o'clock at night a couple years ago, and they've just got all this like beer garden next to it.
Oh
and all
yeah,
these
the Germantown area up there is just fabulous. Good if you ever have a chance to get down there. It's just you hang around there all day, and then you go to a ball game at night. It's just tremendous.
Well, and there's also some guys that, you're going to see there that are like a step away from the majors. There's even some guys that might be rehabbing. Yeah. There's a couple guys that the Reds have traded away, like Adam Duvall plays for the AAA Braves team. The I think they're called like the Gwinnett Stripers, the fish that's popular down there or whatever. And he's played up here in Nashville, and he's, we see him all the time, a guy that's been on our show a couple times. So there's guys that are coming and going from the majors that you can just see essentially in our backyard just down the road a little ways with the Sounds. So.
And you'll see them all the time. They're the Texas Rangers affiliate now, but they were Oakland. Mm-hmm. And we got to see Chapman down there from Oakland a couple of years ago, and mercy. This guy, you wouldn't believe how far he gets a baseball. It's pretty sick. He just crushes it. But, like you said, you get to see the future stars that are coming up and, some journeymen that are like doing rehabs assignments. And it's a lot of fun going to games down there. And AAA baseball is just a blast. I mean, there's no pressure. And it's just all fun and just kick back and chill.
Well, and even if you, I go back to my daughter, if you don't like staying, don't like scoring a game or whatever, there's so much going on there. I feel like we're doing a commercial for the Sounds or the AAA bats up in Louisville, but really it is. There's so much going on at the game, whether you don't have to be, and I hate to say this, but you don't have to be in tune to the game 100%. There's, an outfield bar. They got cornhole going on. There's different things like that. You can walk around the whole stadium and just kind of take it all in and go to the gift shop and all those things that my daughter loves doing. So
exactly. We used to go down to the AAA for Kansas City, the Omaha Royals games. Mm-hmm. And we used to have a lot of fun down at the old Rosenblatt Stadium, but now it's torn down. But, that was just, no pressure, cheap tickets, cheap beer, cheap burgers. And, it was a lot of fun. But, those are what draw people to come watch baseball. And this is where people should take kids who are interested in playing baseball. Just take them to a AAA game. You don't have to take them to Yankee Stadium or Wrigley Field the first time, but just show them interest in that. And I do believe that it'll change their minds a lot. So
I think we almost take it for granted being this close to Louisville and also to Nashville. There, we're within spitting distance. Also, Lexington's got a team, of course, right in our own backyard here. We've got the Low A Bowling Green Hot Rod. So I almost say people take it for granted to see the future stars and just taking a ball game and just take your family to it. It's just amazing to me that it's right here in our backyard.
Heck, it's almost cheaper than a movie anymore.
It really, you're right. It really is. Other than maybe the drive down to Nashville, a little bit of traffic. Other than that, it is cheaper than taking a family of four and getting them a large tub of popcorn
and a couple of Cokes or anything like that. But, it's good entertainment, and get out and get some fresh air.
That's right. That's right. Well, Danny, thank you so much for coming in on the show, and it's been far too long, far past due. Coming in.
I had a riot, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean, you're pretty much a regular on Brian's show on Tuesday anyway, so you're probably here more than Garrett is most of the time because he's always off doing softball. Or
he's a busy man. The G-man's busy.
The hardest working man in all.
He's the James Brown of 102.7.
Exactly. All right, we're going to shut the show down, but thanks again, Danny, and Todd, who had to bug out a little bit early on the show today, and also to Tommy Thrall coming on the show right here on the Redlegs Radio Report, ESPN Radio 102.7, ESPN Radio 1027.com.
This copyrighted broadcast is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form.